Tasomachi Beyond the Twilight sees you take on the role of Yukimo as she explores a deserted town, looking for items to repair her airship after it was damaged by a mysterious force. Along the way, you'll encounter the Nizu tribe, made up only of cats, who will guide you to more items for your airship. There are a number of sacred tree sanctuaries at the edges of each area. These are basically platforming challenges for you to complete in order to access the trees at the end, which will dispel the fog and unlock more areas. Tasomachi is a platformer that issues you with two main tasks: collecting items known as sources of earth, which are the shape of glowing red lanterns, to help you repair your airship. Unlocking further areas requires the collection of a certain amount of lanterns. The core of the gameplay is to run around the towns collecting. There's no combat and no way of dying. If you fall off a ledge into the water, you'll appear right back where you left off. It's immediately apparent the instant you start playing Tasomachi that it's got floaty controls. Yukimo seems to hang in the air for an inordinate amount of time after every jump. This is an issue as the platforms that you encounter are all at different heights, meaning that you'll be overshooting most of them. This quickly gets annoying during the general exploration parts, but for the precision platforming sections, it's a nightmare. They've tried to compensate for this by having Yukimo's feet stick to the floor wherever she lands, but this just winds up looking absolutely terrible, especially on sections that have moving platforms. The camera doesn't help out either. You can control it using the right analog stick, but the camera will immediately turn in the direction Yukimo is facing. If you want to run in one direction but keep the camera facing another, you'll be fighting it the entire time. The gameplay quickly gets very boring. After the first hour, you've basically seen and done everything that it's going to throw at you over the course of the game. The towns aren't interesting to explore, and the sanctuary challenges are all the same after a few hours. Each new area's appeal wears thin very quickly after you've taken a run through them for the first time. There's also an infuriating thing that happens at the start of every new area, where the game plays an intro, then fades to black, and then as soon as you walk a few steps, it fades to black again to play a second intro, and that happens in every single area. On the surface, it's beautiful. They've gone for a real Studio Ghibli vibe, and while they haven't cleared that high bar, they've achieved something really special looking. The art style is a curious blend of fantasy oriental and rustic charm. Trees and their shed leaves are everywhere, and they contrast starkly with the lampposts, cardboard boxes and trash bags littering the streets. The water effects in particular are stunning. How the light glints off the surface of the water and the reflections are all perfect. The panoramic views you can achieve in this game are serious artworks in themselves. This game was made for photo mode. You can tell the developer has done artwork for games such as Final Fantasy and Xenoblade Chronicles. Get past these surface impressions, however, and you'll find a game that's unfinished to a shocking degree. The problem is that, ironically for a game that looks this good, there's very little attention to detail. So many of the models get reused that each area just blends into each other, leading to not being able to distinctly remember which is which. Animations are missing from actions like digging, sitting and praying at save shrines. All the interactions are just static poses apart from picking something up, which is the same animation regardless of where the item is. Lots of the effects look really cheap, like the flaming barriers that block your path and the swirls at the save points. This lack of detail is crowned by the main character. She looks like a doll because her face just never moves. It's stuck with the same grinning face no matter what is occurring at the time. How a studio can put this much effort into the landscape but not even animate the main character's face is incomprehensible. The background music is good for the most part. They've gone for a real relaxing ambient feel throughout the game. The issue occurs with the sanctuary sections. The music doesn't suit the artwork they're going for in Tasomachi. The pairing of grating ambient electronic music with the serene naturist vibe of the artwork just didn't work for me at times. As for the sound, there's not a lot of variety. Often sound effects just don't trigger when they're supposed to. There's also no sounds for speech at all, and there's no character voice. Another issue I had with Tasomachi, which I've seen reported in other places, is often the game would go completely silent for no reason, making me check if I'd accidentally muted my speakers or headset. I hadn't, but for some reason they're just parts of Tasomachi that are completely silent. The storyline can be summed up with 3 words, and there is none. We don't know anything about the character, where she's from or what she's like. There's no lore about the world outside the areas that we visit. This is a real shame, as the blend of traditional building styles with the modern technology leads to a lot of interesting questions about this world. The airship and how Yukimo got it are never explained either. This lack of detail in the storyline led me to a constant series of questions running through my head when I was playing. How does Yukimo not know how to fix an airship she pilots on her own? Why does an airship run on sources of Earth? And how did he fuel and repair the ship at the same time? We don't know what she was looking for when she goes near the town, or why she decided to go there. And why are we following the orders of a weird group of cats? Have we ever seen the Nezu tribe before? The lore scattered throughout the game is thin. It's usually just 3 lines or less and some trivial detail that adds nothing to the game world. In particular, the Nezu are never explained at all. There's no substance to go with the style on offer here. This is clearly a game where the vast majority of the effort was poured into the artwork. So in summary, while beautiful, this seriously feels like an early access game due to the lack of content. It's so unfinished, I just can't recommend it to anyone. A platformer with floaty and imprecise controls was never going to be a good game, no matter how good the graphics are. With boring gameplay, no storyline to speak of, and no real clue of what you're supposed to be doing and why, Tasomachi has nothing to hold the player past the first hour, and nothing to convince them to come back and play again past that.